The next lesson we're going to talk about today, and the last lesson of Unit 1, is going to be solving a system of linear inequalities. Mine starts on page 12. So you're going to get a handout that you're going to fill in, and then you're going to glue it into your notebook when you're done. So there are two vocabulary words that we need to talk about. The first is what a system of linear inequalities is, and that is when two or more linear inequalities are graphed together. The solution of that system is the overlapping shaded region where the points satisfy both of the inequalities. So what we're going to do is we are going to combine the last lesson as well as the system of equations that we've already done, and we're going to put them together. So we're going to take a look at 4 examples. The first example that we're going to take a look at today is already in the form that I want them in. So remember that we're going to treat these as 2 separate problems. One I'm going to graph in red, and one I'm going to graph in green, so you can see the difference between the two. The first one, we notice that our m is equal to 1 over 1, and our b is 0, negative 5. So I'm going to graph at 0, negative 5, and my slope is 1. So I'm going to rise 1, run 1. Now this is less than, so that means that we're looking at a dotted line. Line that up there. A dotted line, and because it's less than, remember we want to shade below. Okay, so that's our first one. Our second one is a slope of negative 1 over 1 and a b value of 0, negative 1. So I'm going to graph 0, negative 1, and this time my slope goes down and to the right. And so you can see that it already overlaps a little. This is also a dotted line. So when I graph this, you're going to notice that I just do my dots. I don't do a solid line. Arrows on both sides. And this is greater than, which means I'm going to shade above. Now notice that there is a region that both of them have in common. And that is this region right here. I'm going to put a big S. That means that this region right here is the solution to my system of inequalities because it's where it overlaps. Let's take a look at example 2. Okay, again, I've given you 2 that are in the form that we want. So my first one has a slope of 1/3 and a b of 0, 7. So I'm going to start out up here at 7. My slope is 1, so rise 1, run 3, or I could come down 1 and left 3. Okay, this is a dotted line because it is less than, so I'm going to dash, put arrows on the end, and it's less than, so everything down here gets shaded. The next one is y is greater than or equal to negative x. So my slope is negative 1 over 1. My b plus 4, so 0, 4. So I'm going to start at 4, and my slope is negative 1 over 1, so I come down, or I can go up and to the left. Now this is going to be a solid line because it's greater than or equal to. And so because it's greater than, I shade above, and the region where both of these overlap is right here, and so I'm going to put a big S. So any ordered pair that's in this region is a part of my solution. Okay. What happens if our equations are not in the proper form? Hopefully you're saying that we need to solve them for y and put them in y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to solve this example 3, x minus 4y is less than or equal to 24, for the proper form. I'm going to subtract x from both sides. So we have negative 4y is less than or equal to negative x plus 24. Now I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 4. And because I'm dividing by a negative, remember that my inequality symbol now changes to greater than or equal to. So y is greater than or equal to negative divided by negative is positive 1/4, and then minus, minus 6. Minus 6. This is already in the form that I need it. So I can go ahead and I can say that the slope here is 2/1 and my b is 0, 1. My slope of my new equation is 1/4 and my b is 0, negative 6. So I'm going to graph my red line first. I'm going to start at negative 6 and my slope is up 1, 4 to the right. And because this is greater than or equal to, that means I get to have a solid line. So I'm going to have my solid line here. And it's greater than, so I shade above. My second line starts at 0, 1 as my intercept. My slope is 2, so I'm going to rise 2 and run 1. Or come down 2 and left 1. And this is also a solid line. And this is less than, so I'm going to shade downward. The overlapping region is in between these two lines right here, so I'm going to put a big S. That means anything in that region is a part of my solution, including points on the line because they're both solid. My last example is a slightly different one. Here we have x is less than negative 4. So let's talk about that for a minute. X means that I'm actually on the x-axis. So in this case, I want to find negative 4 on the x-axis, and I want to be less than that. So I'm going to create a vertical line going through x equals negative 4, and it's dotted because it is less than, and I'm going to shade everything to the left because that is less than negative 4. Now this equation is not in the proper form, so we want to put it in y equals mx plus b. First, we subtract the 3x, so we have 2y is less than or equal to negative 3x minus 2. Then we divide everything by 2. And so our final equation here is y is less than or equal to negative 3/2 x minus 1. And I didn't flip my inequality sign because I divided by a positive 2. So my m here is negative 3/2, and my b is 0, negative 1. Now, on this is no slope, or what we call undefined, because it's a vertical line, and it has no y-intercept either because it doesn't cross the y-axis. So now I'm going to graph my last line, and I go through 0, negative 1, and then my slope is negative 3/2. So I can go up 3 and to the left 2, or I can go down 3 and to the right 2. And this is going to be a solid line because it's less than or equal to. And remember that it's less than or equal to, so we want to shade below. And anywhere that it overlaps between this red solid line and this green dotted line is our solution. Now, be careful because only the points on this part of the red are in the solution. This green dotted line, that's not a part of my solution, so I can't pick anything on this green line down here. We'll have extra practice in class.